guys, happy Monday. I'm going to be reading chapter 4 for our book study of our story, Jack. Remember that you guys have a weekly assignment that you need to complete, and you can re-listen to these chapters, or I have the PDFs uploaded so you can just read them yourself. So we have chapter 4, and it is called A Cow Worth Beans. I waited 3 days for the clouds to rain dirt, for the skies to split open, for the giants to reach down and take me with them. But the only thing that came out of the clouds was water, cold and wet. It turned the giant footprints into ponds and seeped through our roof. I plugged the holes with rags and straw while Annabella placed pots and buckets to catch the drips. Mama stayed in bed with her broken leg and sore heart. It was clear Mama couldn't accept the truth about giants, not even when I told her about the village. She kept talking about storms and how the now roofless barn. But she mellowed and cried, and finally we found her buried under some hay and rubble. We pulled away the hay and tufts and lifted off the rubble until at last Milky White was free. She heaved herself to a standing position. Moo! Oh, Jack, she's in pain, said Annabella as she rubbed her White's neck. She just had her calf, I said, and she probably needs to be milked. I found a dented bucket and milked the cow, but afterward she kept mooing and groaning like she was in horrible pain. I think she misses her baby, says Annabella. Poor Milky White. Of course, her baby had gotten taken right along with Papa, and I didn't want to think what the giants had planned for them. If there were any truth in Grandpa Jack's tales, the prospects were not good. Oops. I'm sorry, Milky Way. I patted her on the neck. Even though she was a cow, I could imagine how she must feel about losing her calf, not knowing where he was or what was going to happen to him. I imagine we felt about the same, Milky and I. I would leave this instant to find Papa, if only I could find a way to the sky. We were lucky we didn't get hit too hard. At least we still had the cow. We'll have to sell her, said Mama. Get a good price while she's worth something. But she's all we have, and I had seen Annabella scraping the bottom of the barrel that morning to make bread. We won't give milk forever, said Mama. If we sell her now, we can buy enough grain to last through the winter. And then what? We'll plant seed, said Mama. We'll survive. That was Mama, ever practical, even in dire distress. But I didn't want to survive. I wanted to live. I wanted Papa back. Go milk the cow, Jack, said Mama. She won't be worth beans if she runs dry. I milked Milky White and then took her to graze in the muddy fields. It had finally stopped raining and the sun shone. I petted Milky's neck as she paddled along, tearing at bits of grass and scattered straw. She still seemed melancholy over her lost calf, but she wasn't crying anymore. Maybe she'd given up hope like Mama. I heard a distant melody. I turned toward the sound. A man was walking down the road whistling, just like Papa did when he worked in the fields. Could it be? I squinted and really looked, but the man was walking funny, limping. It wasn't Papa. Of all people, it was Jabber the tinker, hobbling down the road on his wooden leg, pulling his cart through muddy ditches around broken branches. Hello there, he greeted me in a cheery voice. Perfect morning, don't you think? Doesn't it look like a dirt shower today, does it? He smiled and looked up at the blue sky. That's because we just had one, I said dully. It rained dirt like you said. The giants came in the night and took Papa. They took the village too, all of it. Well, you're lucky they didn't take you, he said. You've still got all your limbs, I see. Good. And a cow. Rare thing that the giants would leave a cow. They took her calf, I told him. Papa was holding on to her. They took him up in the sky, and I'm going to go after him. He cocked an eye. How do you plan to do that? I'll find a way. If the giants can come down, then there must be a way up. There must, Jabber agreed. Do you know a way? Everything Jabber had told us about the giants turned out to be true. But was that all he knew? I might, said Jabber. How? Tell me. Jabber gave me a hard look. Please, I said, my Papa. Jabber leaned against his cart and pulled up his wooden leg to rest on his good knee. He drummed his fingers on the wood and looked at the sky. I knew a man once. He had a son about your age. They were riding to the market with a wagon full of turnips, just minding their own business, when all of a sudden, boom! A giant stopped right in front of them. He stood 50, maybe 100 feet high. The giant picked up the wagon with one hand, horse and all. And the man and his son? He took the son and left the man. It sounded just like Papa, only the other way around. What happened then? It rained dirt, of course. But what happened to the man and his son? Didn't his father go after him? Didn't he get the giant world? Did he get to the giant world too? No, the boy was never heard from again. That's a terrible story, I said. Yes, it is. We sat there and looked up at the sky. Those giants, they've been coming down and taking everything from our world, said Jabber, and no one has ever been able to stop 'em. I'm always asking myself, who's going to stop 'em? Who's going to go up there and show those giants they can't just take our crops and our people whenever they get the fancy? I will, I said. I was born to face giants. I'll chop off their heads. I believe you, son, I do. And that's why I'm going to tell you a secret. I'm going to make you an offer I don't just make to anybody. Jabber dug inside one of his sacks. I held my breath, thinking maybe he'd held the secret to getting into Giant World. A magic rope, a flying carpet, a wand. Mostly giants just take and take. Sorry. Mostly giants just take and take and never leave anything behind, said Jabber. But once in a while they drop things that are little to them but big to us. Jabber held both his hands out to me like a bowl, and sitting inside there were 3 beans. Green beans, just like the ones Mama grew in our garden, except they were as big as apples. But still, beans? I asked. Giant beans, he corrected. So, what good are those? You're a smart boy. What do you do when you plant beans? Or what do you get when you plant beans? I shrugged. More beans? Beanstalks! So what? How's a beanstalk supposed to help me find Papa? I was feeling a little annoyed now. Did he think I was stupid? Listen here, said Jabber. I planted one of these once just to see what would happen, and the beanstalk grew so tall it went straight to the sky. Giant beanstalks can take you to the giant world. That got my attention. Where is it? I asked. The giant beanstalk you grew. Well, it's long since died and turned to dirt. They don't last forever, you know. You've been there then? To the giant's world? His face fell and his eyes dimmed. It's hard for someone like me to climb the top of the sky. He tapped his wooden leg. But that's why I only planted one, just to see what they would do. I saved the rest waiting for the right person to take them, someone who has 2 good legs and a reason. He clutched my arm and drew close to my face. A reason to go up there and face those giants and take back what they took from us. You, Jack. I've been waiting for you. I'd been waiting too, for my turn to face the giants, for a way to get to the giants. But beans? I'd always hated them. I wasn't sorry that the giants had ripped them from our garden, but now it looked as though these beans were the only hope of getting to Papa. How do you know if the beanstalks reach all the way to the giant world if you've never climbed one? Same way I know the giants are coming down. Dirt showers. You stand under that beanstalk every day while it's growing, and once you get that sprinkle of dirt, you know it's gone straight to the sky and struck land. Well, what do I have to lose? I'll take the beans. I reached for them, but Jabber yanked back his hand. Not so fast, young man. Those beans are valuable. I can't just give them away. He eyed Milky White. I knew what he was thinking. There's a full bucket of milk in the barn, I said. I can give you that. A bucket of milk? Come, Jack. I'm a poor man with nothing to my name. I'll give you a bottle of milk every day. How will you do that when you're up in the sky? When I get back, then. Jabber clutched the beans to his chest. What if you don't come back? He had a point. If I went after the giants, there was no guarantee I'd return. and Mama would never agree to give Jack milk every day. She wouldn't approve of the beans at all. Whatever I gave the tinker, I would have to give now and be done. I'll take the cow for the beans, said Jabber. You find your papa and your calf and maybe some riches besides. One hears tales of the giant's riches, diamonds and rubies the size of apples, sacks of silver and gold. I think that's more than a fair trade for a cow. It would be a foolish trade. Nuts! But Jabber had been right about everything else. And Papa, if there was even a sliver of a chance, I had to take it. Slowly, I held out our Milky White's rope. You can take the cow, I said. Jabber snatched it. Done. He dumped the 3 green beans into my hand. One tumbled to the ground, so I crouched to pick it up. When I stood, Jabber was already hobbling down the road, taking our last source of food with him. Goodbye, Milky White. I hope you were worth the beans. I tried to keep the news about the cow secret for as long as possible. I shuffled my feet all the way home. I didn't go inside. I went to the giant foot pond, which had multiplied into several giant feet ponds. The beans sat like heavy stone in my pocket. I took one out, I took one out, oh, I can't read it, sorry. Oh, and turned it over in my hands. What if they didn't grow up to the sky like Jabber said they would? What if they didn't grow at all? But they had to. Jabber had been right about giants when no one believed him. Why wouldn't he be right about the beans? It was getting dark now. I was ready to plant the beans right away in one of our giant footprints. But then Annabella came running out calling for me. I tried to hide, but she found me anyways. Sometimes I think her floppy braids are like bug antennas and they can sense whatever she's trying to find. Mama's asking for you. What's that? She pointed to the bean in my hand. Nothing. I slid the bean into my pocket. Just a stone. As soon as I walked inside, Mama asked me to go milk Milky White. Since there was no Milky White to be milked, I had to spill the beans. The beans about trading Milky White to Jabber. I was still trying to keep the giant beans a secret. You did what with our cow? You said I should sell her, I reminded her. Mama breathed deeply and twisted her apron in front of her hands. Well then, it must have been a good offer for you to sell so quickly. What did the crackpot give you? Gold, I hope. I glanced at Annabella, who was standing in the corner quietly listening. Not quite gold, no, I fingered to the beans in my pocket, which was a stupid thing to do because Mama's eyes went right to them. She knew my pockets were full of mischief. She knew my pockets were always full of mischief. Turn out your pockets, Jack, now. Mother spoke soft with a low clenched teeth like a growling animal about to attack. Even though Mama had an injured leg, I was certain that rage would give her whatever strength she needed to rip the hair out of my head. Slowly, I pulled out the giant beans and held them in my cupped hands. What on earth are those? Beans, I said. Giant beans. Beans, Mama said, her face drained of whatever color she had left, and then I spilled my explanation. I know you won't believe me, but you have to listen. These are giant beans. See how big they are? Papa was taken by giants. The entire village was taken. Tell her, Annabella. Annabella squeaked from the corner like a shy little mouse. It has to be giants, Mama. Where could everything else have gone? Did you see the giants? Mama asked. Annabella glanced to me, then looked at the floor. No, I didn't. I didn't see them. I saw the giants, I said. I saw them take Papa up to the sky, and those beans will grow us a ladder that leads to Papa. Jabber told me so. Jabber told you so? Mama stared at the beans for a while, cold and blank. She had to believe me, but without warning, she seized the beans from my hand and thrust them out her shattered window into the dark night. No! I shouted. Jack, stop it. Stop your foolishness. Your papa was lost in the storm and you won't find him with the beans. Mama was crying now and so was Annabella, but I was too mad to cry. I saw them, I shouted. I saw them take Papa. I tore through the hole in the house and ran to the place where Mama had thrown the beans. I searched all around, tore up the garden like a mole until I found them all. I dug down deep into the earth with my bare hands, turning the soil, pulling up weeds to prepare a space for my beans. A strange calm came over me as I placed the beans in the earth and covered them with dirt. Safe in the ground, I drew water from the well and poured it over the spot where the beans were buried. When I was done, I stayed in the garden, seething about Mama. How could she give up on Papa so easily? Why couldn't she just believe me? When I came inside, Annabelle was asleep, curled up like a kitten next to Mama. Mama was just sitting in her bed, drumming her fingers on something in her lap. It was Papa's old book of giant tales. Papa never needed to read them since he knew all the stories by heart. I did too, but the book was still a treasure passed down through generations. Mama handed the book to me. He would want you to have it, she said, and she looked away, tears brimming her eyes. The worn leather and cracked binding was a familiar in my hands. It would have it should have been a comfort, but I knew what Mama was really saying. She didn't think Papa was coming back. She was giving up. I went to bed with the book pressed to my chest, trying to crush the swelling and pain underneath. I tried to comfort myself with stories, imagining Papa's voice in the words. There was a son named Jack. I started to cry. I cried myself to sleep, wishing that when I woke up, Papa would be there.